This thing. All right, so welcome to what I hope will be maybe the first of many Feature Fridays, where we'll talk about Kubernetes and Docker and all that kind of fun stuff. What I want to do today, close that. What I want to do today is show how to see which images are running in a Kubernetes cluster. So if you haven't played around with it before, getting information about Kubernetes from the command line and from the available tools, there's a million different options. So the first thing that most people would probably instinctively do would be to do like some sort of kube control, git pods to see what images are running. But doing a kube, I guess people call it kubectl. I like to say kube control because it seems like it just makes more sense in my brain. But anyway. If you do that, it doesn't actually show you anything about the images that are running. It gives you the name of the pods. Now that's useful if you want to delete a pod or something like that, but it doesn't actually show you what image is running. So the way there are basically three ways to get information about what images are running in Kubernetes. I'm going to show you those three ways. One is with the command line, one is with the Kubernetes UI, and then the other is going to be using Codefresh. And I think that one is going to be really interesting because I'm going to show you some extra stuff. So the first thing, if you just want to find, and I'll make my screen a little bit bigger here so that you guys can see it. If you just want to see what images are running, you have to do this kind of hairy, nasty command. I'd suggest maybe putting this in an alias if you're going to use it a lot. But basically what this does is this says, hey, I want to see all my pods, all the namespaces, and then for the output, I want you to go check out the image JSON path and parse it all for me and then export it so that I basically have a list of all my images that are running. And if I do that, you can see these are all the images that I have running. So I can see that I have this one running from Codefresh. The Codefresh registry, I can see I have some GCR registry images. Now this is nice because I could go and I could do a poll, a Docker poll on this image to just download it. But maybe I wanted to see more metadata information. Maybe I want to see the commits or things like that. We're going to show you how to do that. The next way to see which images are running is if I do kubectl proxy. And we open this up, UI. I'll be able to see the images that are running, kind of. And see, here I can see the image that's running. Now I can't see the full thing, even if I expand my window. I can't ever make my window, wide enough. It's not great. Even if I, expand just on that pod, I can't really get that full image information. So not super helpful. So the question is really hey, I want to see the images that are running and what's going on with them. We've actually built that into Codefresh. So I'll show you how we do that in Codefresh. So I've got, let's see, what clusters do I have here? Looks like I've got a couple different clusters set up here. I've got one on IBM Bluemix. These two are on Google Cloud. I can see this one's got some beef going on, but let's look at let's actually look at, oh, you know what, let's do this. I'm going to switch accounts to one that has a little bit more information on it. So let's say I want to look in my Kubernetes cluster, I want to see what images are running, and I want to understand where they came from. So if I open this up, I'm going to see these are all the services that I have in my cluster. So this is kind of the equivalent of doing a kubectl get services, except I get a lot more information and I can, have some control over, replicas or whatever. But you can see here, the status. I can see everything that's happening. But you can also see I've got this images section here that's a link. So this is similar to that line that I saw in command line where I have just the name of the image, except now I can actually go to that image directly in the registry that it lives in. So here it's in the Codefresh registry. So I'll jump to that. And when I jump in, I'm going to get a lot more information about the image that's running. I can see that this one looks like it was deployed last on the 29th of November. It was rebuilt at that time. I can see all the processes that have happened with this image, and I can also see the commit SHA. So if I wanted to open this up, see if I'm in the right GitHub account. Yeah, so I can see this is the last change that happened in this image. This is the code that changed in that. I can see who made the last change. And then I can see all this extra information. So I can see it passed unit tests. It has unit test coverage. It has performance latency. Now this one's associated with the Jira ticket, so I could open up that Jira ticket. I deleted this issue. That's right. And then I can also get a performance report. So I'm gonna, if you've used JMeter, you're probably familiar with BlazeMeter, basically a performance testing service. So if I jump in, I can see that this image was actually tested for performance and latency, and I have that kind of all that information available to me right on that image. So the nice thing about this is if I'm just looking around at my cluster and I'm trying to understand what image is even running here, where did it come from? I can see I've got this Slackbot one. I bet this one doesn't have as much testing data associated with it. Yeah, no annotations on this one. The nice thing about this is I can basically jump directly to understand the image, get information about all the layers that went into it, do some optimization there. So that just makes it really easy to identify what's going on in a cluster and the change history. So you can imagine a scenario where maybe you're having a performance issue or something, and you want to understand, you want to isolate, well, did this thing meet criteria for performance when it was even being tested? What was happening? I can jump directly to the image and see that. I can see which changes are currently in production or in staging or wherever this service is. So that's really nice because it gives you a lot more information about what's actually happening in your cluster than just poking around in kubectl. Because ultimately, like, your Kubernetes cluster doesn't know the history of the images that are passed to it, right? The image that's put into your cluster, Kubernetes doesn't really care where it came from. It doesn't really have an opinion about it. It's not worried about it. It doesn't have any sense of the history of the things that image has gone through. But for you working on these images, working on this cluster, that's actually super important because you want to understand where it came from and what processes it's gone through, what steps have happened. So really, really simple, easy to do. To connect something, so if you want to do something like this with Codefresh, the process is pretty simple. Maybe I can give you like just a quick run through of what that would look like. Let me go into a fresh cluster here. Let me clean up. Which one do I want to use? Let's use this one. I'm going to kill these. I'm just going to kill this one. Let's remove it. So I just killed this. I just killed this service. Luckily, this is just for demos and stuff. So nobody, don't ever do that in production. So I've got. I'm gonna want to build this image and annotate some information onto it. So I'm gonna go over to the pipeline that I set up for demo chat. Actually, let's do a fun one. Let's do this Mario one. This one's cool. So this is my pipeline, and basically all I have it set up to do right now, I don't even have a webhook on it. I think I don't even have unit tests on it. Basically all I have set up is to tell it to deploy when it needs to, and it's currently, it's currently not even deployed anywhere, so that wouldn't even do anything. So what I'm gonna do here is maybe we want to add. Do I want to add some annotation information? No, let's just deploy it. Let's just get the image and deploy it and see what happens. So this is the image here that I want to deploy. So this is going to take us back to this screen when we're done. Maybe we've done some work with it. I'm going to go over to Kubernetes, and I want to use one of my this one's on Google Cloud. I want to deploy to this one. This is my sort of demo cluster. I'm also I only want to look at stuff in the default namespace. I don't want to mess with anything else. All right, here we go. So I'm going to add that service. I actually didn't test this beforehand, so let's see if it works. But I'm going to name it Mario. I'm pretty sure it's just a expose on port 80, but I think internally, I can't remember what port this is on. This is a bad way to do a demo. I'm pretty sure. Let's see. It's probably sitting in my GitHub. Let me see what it's doing. I just want to make sure I get the port right because I'll feel really silly if I deploy this and it doesn't work. I'll feel dumb. Where am I here? This is why you should stick with the one that you really understand well. Yeah, port 8080. Okay, that's what I thought. All right, good thing we just checked all that to make sure that it was indeed the exact same port that I thought it would be. All right, let's set up. I'm gonna set up a fresh pull secret here because I actually kept this image private for no apparent reason. I've set it to expose, and I'm going to deploy it. So, if you've deployed new services to Kubernetes, that should look somewhat familiar. But I've actually got a lot of stuff kind of added into this flow, so that when you go and set up a new image for the first time, it's actually generating all my YAML for me. So if I jump over and look at the YAML, you can see the service and deployment YAMLs have been set. Now, the other way, and actually this is kind of maybe the fourth way that you would see what image is running, is if you actually look inside of the configuration, you can see the name of the image. But again, you're going to have to jump to wherever that image lives to actually get information about it. So in this case, I don't need to save any of that. This thing should be up and running. Statuses look good. Let's launch it. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Let's open we gotta use the IP. And here we go. We've got our Mario Brothers deployed here. The rest of this live stream will just be watching me play Mario Brothers, by the way. So you can tune out now if you were gonna watch the rest. There we go. So I've got my Mario deployed, and then I can jump back and look at the image. And yeah, I can actually make comments on this too. Now, I could say Mario looks great. Make that comment. Cool. Now, this kind of dovetails into a potential discussion about branching strategies and tag strategies. I think that's something that I'll probably want to make maybe as a separate video. But the reason I bring it up is because if you want to see like really good, if you want to have really good change management, you're basically, that's going to start with your tagging strategy. So you probably want to version everything. So having multiple tags associated with an image is actually reliable, because then as an image takes over, maybe you have a production branch. That's always the thing that's deployed to production. But if it's got a secondary tag associated with it, like a version or something, then that's going to make it a lot easier to keep track of changes and things that are happening. So anyway, I'll do a separate video on that. Maybe I'll do that one next week after KubeCon. But and let's close Mario, because there's like this. Oh my gosh, how good I am at this game. Let's go ahead and close that. So that's it. That's how you do it. You can get all the information about the image that you want. And again, if you're going through the command line, you can do it with this kind of esoteric command. I'll put a link to that in the description of the video, so you can look it up later if you need to, or you can go through the UI. But really, if you don't want just the name of an image, and you want to actually have the history of that and that image, all the information that's happened with it, you're going to want to be maybe inside of Codefresh, where you can actually get all that extra information. You can see everything that's happened to it, all the collaboration. It just makes life so much easier when you can just jump straight to the entire history of an image, everything that's happened with it, down to all of the logs that went into creating this image and getting it deployed. I mean, it's much easier to debug things and figure out what's going on and have visibility. So there you go, everybody. This was our first Feature Friday. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, then we'll just keep doing it. Next week is KubeCon in Austin. If you're there, come see me speak. I'll be with William Dennis, a Google Cloud Product Manager, talking about how to deploy thousands of containers per day. And some of this stuff actually figures into that. So it should be a really good show, and I look forward to seeing you in Austin.